When Kathy finally learned that he was alive, and then started to make calls and even had a lawyer and even knew he was at Hunt but told he wasn't, how long was that time from when he had been picked up September 6th to when he was finally released?
It was 3 weeks before she heard from him. That was when the missionary who Zaytoun had given his phone number to called Kathy. And that's when she first knew that he was even alive. And what was interesting was that even then, it was extremely difficult to extract him from Hunt. And it was only because they had means to hire a private lawyer. They had a property that they could put up against the bail, and because they had set bail for all of those charged after Katrina with minor offenses, looting or stealing a sausage in one case. The bail was astronomical, in some cases $100,000 for stealing a small piece of food. And so this was the case with Zaytoun too. The bail was I think about $100,000, and so they had to put up their office building as collateral to get him out. And even then, when there was a court hearing finally set, Kathy wasn't told where it was, couldn't find where the courthouse was, where they were holding these hearings. And when she called to find out, they told her that she couldn't be told where the court hearing would be, that was, quote unquote, private information. And it's interesting that what Kathy says is that after all of this and all that she went through, it was that moment that really broke her. It's that she knew that her husband was alive finally, and all she wanted to do was reach him and be able to see him again. And that's when, even then, the bureaucracy and this sort of humanity and this callousness sort of prevented her from doing so. And that they wouldn't even tell her where he was, where the trial would be held. And so I think, I do hope that everybody learned something from this, but I think it's a lesson in how the sort of everyday inhumanity or everyday, what might seem like small abuses of power or the lack of recognition of our common humanity can cause incredible suffering.
How is it that Todd Gambino and Nasser ended up in prison for so many more months, up to, in Todd's case, a year?
They didn't have they and hundreds of others didn't have the money to hire private lawyers. And without that, you didn't have a prayer. There were a lot of really great public defenders who took it upon themselves to search out these prisoners who were lost in the system and to try to track them and find out what they were charged with and give them representation. But that took many, many months to sort out. And the Zaytouns did what they could for their friends, but it was, there's only so much that you can do, and there were so many others that were in the same situation. So, Todd is out now, and he's doing fine. He's actually working in a shallow oil rig off the Gulf, just work that he had done before. And Nasser went back to Syria. It's a shame, but there are hundreds of other stories like it.
And now the lawsuit to, as Kathy said, to bring some kind of justice to stop this from happening again.
Well, what one lawyer said was that they had better get in line. There are thousands of civil suits against the city, the state, FEMA, Homeland Security, government, and there isn't a whole lot of movement with any of these civil suits. The most famous among them is the case of the two men who were shot on the Danziger Bridge, and the officers who are being held responsible for that. Obviously, that case is moving forward on both levels, on a criminal level, on a civil level, but I don't think, I'm not holding my breath that the rest of these civil cases are going to result in compensation or any sort of, satisfaction anytime soon. I think that the Zaytuns have put it behind them, and I think that telling their story created, I think, a sense of peace and closure, if you will, and also the fact that they helped create the Zaytun Foundation, which has been able to give grants to a number of nonprofits all over New Orleans that, like themselves, they're helping rebuild the city, and I think that that gives them some sense of wholeness too. And so, but the civil suit, I think we could find ourselves 10 years from now saying at the same, and it would not have moved a great deal. But I know that Kathy, and especially, wanted to do it as a gesture, just to make sure that this wasn't forgotten.
Dave Eggers, you certainly will ensure that this story is not only not forgotten, but is learned about, is read all over the world, both with Zaytun and also with Voice of Witness. I'm wondering, as we conclude, we'll lose the satellite in a minute, how you fit the story of Zaytun, of the Zaytuns, into all your Voice of Witness series. Underground America, Narratives of Undocumented Lives, Surviving Justice, America's Wrongfully Convicted and Exonerated, Out of Exile, Narratives from the Abducted and Displaced People of Sudan, and of course, what we're talking about today on this 5th anniversary, Voices from the Storm, the People of New Orleans on Hurricane Katrina and its aftermath.
Well, I think I just believe in the right of people, and I think the need for people to be able to be heard. I think that what we found with Voice of Witness is, again and again, when you give the opportunity to people to tell their story from beginning to end, we ask them, where were you born? What were you like as a child? Who were your friends? What was your family like? What was your home life like? We go all the way from birth to where they are now. And I think that when you give people control over their story a bit, and you give them a sense of ownership over their story, and that we're not going to publish it until you've approved of every word and make sure that it's completely accurate and that we've fact-checked it independently, I think that again and again you find people that have been victimized and who have, suffered a good deal, when finally they can get their story on paper, on the record, completely right. I think that there's an incredible sense of relief that comes to them. That's what our narrators tell us again and again. It's like finally this burden that they've felt for so long, this story that they've carried around, is finally out there, and maybe those who are responsible for this might be less likely to do it again, or the system that's responsible might be closer to being corrected or addressed because that they spoke up.
Dave Eggers, author of Zaytun. It just won the American Book Award. He's also founder of the independent publishing house and literary journal McSweeney's. The book's being adapted into an animated movie directed by Jonathan Demme next year. On Monday, we'll continue in New Orleans to mark the 5th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Berkshire, for Ducaduce, Aramate, Angela Kama, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, and Robbie Karen. And a very fond farewell today to Samantha Chambly. For 5 years, she's brightened up Democracy Now! With her warmth, her dedication, her compassion, intelligence. Sam, we wish you the very best as you move on to film school. I can't wait to watch your first films and say, play it again, Sam. Thank you so much, Sam. This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.